Welcome to episode 1 of the Mala podcast. Mala is a nonprofit committed to empowering individual freedom, diversity, and building bridges with other faiths. Today's episode is empowering Muslim American leaders, navigating challenges and embracing opportunities. We will be discussing what it takes to be a leader for young professionals, the challenges we face as we try to climb the social and corporate ladder, and how we can leverage challenges and turn them into opportunities for growth. With me, I have two inspirational leaders from our community here in New York, Jamin Chowdhury and Humas Ali. Jamin Chowdhury is an emerging community leader with previous career experience in marketing analytics and digital strategy. Jamin is currently working in the nonprofit sector, supporting workforce development and DE&I initiatives across the nation. I believe DE&I stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Correct me if I'm wrong. At this time, Jamin is also pursuing a Master's of Business Administration at the Zicklin School of Business at Baruch College, concentrating in strategy and business analytics. Humas Ali is a first-generation Pakistani American. He has extensive experience in the nonprofit field and has been a panelist for several organizations in the past. He has been involved in student governments throughout his educational career, such as being president of the Campus Activity Board. He graduated from CUNY Baruch College with a bachelor's in economics and is currently working at Kroll as a management consultant. I am your host, Dan Khan, representing MALA. MALA is the Muslim American Leadership Alliance. I'm a U.S. Army veteran, having served on active duty for a number of years. I was a logistics specialist assigned to the Military Surface Deployment and Distribution Command. I am now MALA's community manager, tasked with bringing our community together to foster growth for our next generation of leaders. So let's get started. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you guys doing?
Super. Thanks for having us, Dan.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to join you guys.
No problem. We have a series of questions loaded for you guys. I'll start with Humas first. Humas, can you name a specific challenge you faced as a Muslim American leader and how you overcame it?
Yeah, definitely. I think one example from one personal example would be recently. I think it was before the holiday party for our, where I work at currently, Kroll. The director reached out to me to come in person. Usually I work remote, but he was coming in, visiting the New York office, our department's director, senior director. And yeah, he was like, come in person, join the team. We're going to probably network and, probably work from the office today. So yeah, I went in, had a great time, met with a lot of great folks. It was a great opportunity I had, and I was having a great time. I think where things took a turn were when it was coming towards evening, it was time to clock out, but they were starting to plan to go to like a local bar to, just celebrate different sort of wins for the year. And yeah, and obviously because of my faith, I obviously don't drink strictly. That's personal too, but also religiously. I just don't drink. And yeah, it was just I just mentioned it. Oh, I won't be joining them for the bar, and I think it was more peer pressure and more also the director being like, oh, you should, you should join us. I don't think it should be a problem for you to join us. And I was like, again, I don't feel comfortable going to a bar. I've never been to a bar since ever. So definitely was a really uncomfortable position I was put in. And when I said no, definitely saw some faces, some disappointments. I was like, okay, I'll definitely go. But I communicated to my director on the side that I definitely will not be drinking. Just wanted to let you know on the side. And it's because of faith and religion. And he definitely understood. He was like, yeah, he's like, I totally understand. I apologize if it seemed a little bit more pressured. I was like, no, that's totally understandable. I just want to make sure you're aware that I am I follow my religion pretty strictly, but also personally, I just don't feel comfortable going to the bar. But if you insist, for networking purposes, I'll definitely go for a little bit and then swing back home because the commute is pretty long going back home. Yeah, from the city to back home, it's an hour commute. Yeah. So I can't miss the train. And then next thing you know, there's someone pulled the fire alarm. And the train and the commute turns to 1 hour 30 minutes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I think I handled it pretty well. I think as I mentioned, I just made it aware to the director. I didn't announce it out loud because I didn't want to create an issue, but I think just letting my senior know on the side, and him, appreciating and, realizing like, oh, it could have seemed really bad of a situation. So he just apologized on the side. And he also sent me a text the next day, uh, explaining that, oh, I just wanted to make sure that you're not, put in that spot again. And I'm here if you ever want to talk about stuff like that, if you've ever seen something like that happen again. I was like, yeah, I really felt more comfortable working at where I'm at right now. And yeah, I think handled pretty well.
Yeah, I'm glad he was very supportive. That sounds good because a lot of people aren't self-aware like that.
Yeah.
So they'll peer pressure you and then they
Yeah.
won't think anything of it. So the fact that your director was, open and understood what the conversation was,
Hmm.
that's pretty good. It's a real challenge not drinking as
Yeah.
like a young Muslim person growing up.
Yeah.
Like so much about culture and hanging out and society is let's go to the bar
Mhm.
or hey, we're at this restaurant, let's grab some beers, just get some alcohol. Personally, like, I don't like the taste. Like that was my thing because like
Yeah.
I've had it. Like, oh, my brother's here. The feel, the feels on this. The feel says I totally agree. Thanks, Nephew.
Yeah, I think it's also
Um,
the concept of happy hour in corporate America is something I think things are changing, which is
yeah.
I'm seeing a lot. And I'm really happy about that. But I think this is something that they should definitely bore me. I think this will tend to one of our questions forward, but like they should definitely like this is something that leadership can integrate um into their corporate America style.
Mm.
Like, let's have something that's not happy hour that relates to drinks. Let's just bring food and stuff and like just have an open conversation and have a good time. But yeah.
The ad agency I worked at for a few um, months, it was like 8 months. They loved drinking. Drinking was a big part of their culture. They
Hmm.
had an amazing kitchen. They had the penthouse office suite, so it was like three
Oh.
floors at the top of a building, and the kitchen was at the very top. Full bar, like huge bar, and they would have happy hours every single day after work. Tons of parties, and for New Year's and Christmas, they would go out to bars and drink, and drinking was such a big part of the culture.
Hmm.
But same question for you, Jamin. What are some challenges you faced? How does the challenge of alcohol, like, since we're on that topic too, how does that play a role in being a young?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I'll piggyback off of what Hamas was saying too, about both the kind of corporate events that happen and the culture of just like, having fun and unwinding. It is indeed something that, at least in corporate America, is, a part of the professional journey for many people, just
Mhm.
understanding, navigating like personal relationships, getting to network. Attending networking events sometimes involves drinking as well. So it's kind of like, you don't want to ostracize the Muslim American community by making that kind of the norm, right? And I think this all comes down to, as we kind of navigate our careers, it's important for us to be vocal. So, shout out to Hamas for letting his manager know like his deal. And we as Muslim Americans, it's our duty to do that, right? So they're not gonna change the status quo just because they're only gonna change it when their employees are gonna say something, right? So just as important as it is for us to get our careers and jump into the driver's seat of our professional journeys, it's also important to kind of keep in mind that we're going to set the tone for future Muslim Americans and kind of set up the future of just kind of like a a balance between religion and social interaction. So that's kind of where my head is at. In terms of like a challenge I faced, within, my professional journey as a Muslim American, I think just overall consumption in general, there's a lot of networking events. Sometimes there's not halal food and meat options. And that one is like just as important as the drinking, right? Like you don't want to expose, um, your Muslim American employees to, a roster of amazing meals that can't be consumed, right? That's even worse if you ask me. So it's like, I want to make sure that I'm vocal about that whenever I can be. A lot of my work entails being involved in organizing events, similar to what you do, Dan. It's kind of like organizing events, managing different communities, making sure that everybody's set up for success. And a lot of the times it's up to me to be vocal about, hey, we have, Muslims among us, we have Hindus and Jews, everybody has different accommodation needs when it comes to what they're eating. So how can we best serve that community from a consumption standpoint?
All right, those are very great points. Um, I think having halal food and understanding the difference between halal and kosher. Some people say like, "Oh, we have kosher food; it's the same thing as halal." I'm like, it's not. Like, you should really have, you should have one or the other. You should absolutely have both,
Yes.
because there's a lot of fantastic Jewish people, Jewish Americans that are very strict about their diet as much as Muslims are, and you know, it's not like how if you have like a vegan friend working with you, and I think it's easier to accommodate them. It's like, okay, cool, there's vegan options. Most places do it, but then if you have meat, and it's like it has to be zabad, it has to be halal, it has to be prepared a certain way, and then the logistics and cost behind that go into it and make it even more of a challenge. Uh, Personally, I'm very surprised by how far halal food at restaurants has come.
Yes.
When we were growing up, when we were kids, on like Coney Island
It's so
Avenue,
rare.
there were just like the mom and pop shops. There was like the fried
Yeah.
chicken place. You could
Mhm.
get like a burger. They
Yeah.
had like fries. They had fried chicken. But now it's like there's steakhouses that are
Yeah.
halal. Like there's a place called Affy's.
Uh,
There's other
Sam.
ones. Yeah, like I'm
Yeah.
so surprised by how far we've come. Like it went from just, oh, we can get a cheeseburger to now we can get an actual steak and ribs and like hot dogs, and it's halal.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. And I think, we're further along than we think. I
Hmm.
went to Mexico over the summer and they had a restaurant that had a halal side of the menu. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like, yo, who would have thought all the way down here in Central America, we have an allocation for Muslim communities, right? So we're further along than we think. We have different restaurants that have vegan option, halal options. It's about serving a growing community in different ways. And I think, it all comes from us being vocal about it. And it's really important that we have these conversations with, different vendors and restaurants because, it's better for them. It's their business. They can serve a larger community, more consumers. So, it's a win-win.
Yeah. Also, just to add in, I think, Jamin, you definitely have a fantastic point. I think another way we can like also be vocal is like connecting maybe vendors who also serve halal food with our like HR departments, or like if we're obviously if we have that role, or any Muslim leaders who have that role in their firm, they should definitely. I think that's something I could definitely approach my like team's HR team about, and like see who's the main person who works with different vendors to for these events and stuff. And I think that definitely, again, part of being vocal is that's how we're going to bring this change. Again, it doesn't mean like they shouldn't have happy hours, they shouldn't have like non-halal food. I mean, it's just saying adding something to support the Muslim American community part of your firm as well. So I think, yeah, I think that's definitely a great point.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We don't want to take away from anybody else's experience.
Yeah.
Like some people love drinking, and
Yeah.
I think it's like fantastic. Like that's a great way for people to socialize and communicate. Some people, it's like, why go out of your way to eat halal food when, we can have both. Like
Yeah.
everybody can have their own things. We shouldn't alienate or
Hmm.
ostracize anybody. It's all about inclusivity.
Mhm.
Agreed. Agreed.
What advice do you have for aspiring young leaders? So like younger people who aren't as engaged in our community, who, like we go to college, we're not sure where to start. We start off in our careers, we're not sure what direction we go. And the intersection of being a Muslim American, growing up first generation, it's really difficult because we have our parents,
Mhm.
we have our grandparents, we have our community that's all influencing our choices that we make. And we might not be happy with the direction that they want us to go in. What advice do you guys have for young people who are just starting off in their careers?
My advice would be, especially because again, first generation Pakistani American. I went to Kingsbury Community College, a local college, community college in Brooklyn, in the corner of Brooklyn. So definitely felt a little bit alienated from like all these networking events in the city and all these like career development programs and stuff. Being part of community college, there's not as much awareness as senior colleges have. So I think what I mean, obviously, this is something I wish I knew when I was back then there, rather than when I was in Baruch, was networking and LinkedIn. I think these are definitely big resources. I mean, LinkedIn is a big resource, and networking, going to like your career development office, which I never knew was an office in Kingsborough. I think that's something you have to like get out of your comfort zone, ask people. I mean, just a quick search on Google will also help you on finding different resources. So I think networking and then getting out of your comfort zone would be my biggest advice. Is like going to approach other. If you're not comfortable reaching out to someone else, reach to your Muslim community, someone who you're probably connected with, or someone like you'll see alumni from Kingsborough as well. So it's like I would say getting out of your comfort zone, approaching people is the best way you can advance in your career in general. It doesn't matter you're part of a community college. It doesn't matter even if you're in high school. I think first step is just getting out of your comfort zone, networking, using LinkedIn. The earlier the better, because I mean it's never too late, but I would say the earlier the better. So I think it's definitely good to get out of your little bubble and try to seek out resources. I wish I knew that back then. I was not aiming for anything big in terms of career. I was like, oh, I'll open my own store or something, or I'll probably work as an NYPD officer. I mean, again, no offense to anyone that NYPD officer is a bad job. I'm just saying that I didn't have a lot of career options. That was the only ones that they offered in the community college. So I think I wish I knew that. Someone gave me that advice back then. So that's my biggest advice.
Yeah, right on. And I think, yeah, Dan, you wanted to say something?
No, I'm just agreeing with them. Go ahead, Jamin.
Yeah, sorry. No, I just wanted to agree as well. I think I had a whole different piece of advice, but what Humas said is so true is like, you need to go out and get that support from your colleges, especially, many of us go to these urban universities. At urban universities, they don't really hand things out to you in a silver platter like they do at these, wider, bigger schools. You have to really be able to, have that initiative, go be that go-getter, find out about your career center and really show the school that, hey, you're interested in the career services that they have. When I think back at it, I went to City College, another CUNY in New York City, and I didn't even know they had a career center until my final semester of school. That's when I was just like, oh wow, they had this whole time, and it was like right by the entrance. So it's kind of like, these services are out here, whether it be in your school or just in your communities, maybe a faith-based one, a neighborhood-based one. There's different kinds of career success programs, and it's really important to just, have the drive to go out and get it, because, they're not going to just come knock on your door to just, give you what you need. So I think that's a great point. Also, making use of your networking, finding people on LinkedIn. I think one of my favorite tools on LinkedIn for early career explorers is just hopping on, going to, some companies that you might want to work for, see who from your school went there, right? Let's say, for example, I went to City College, I could go see, hey, there's this company that I might want to apply for. There's this list that shows, hey, there's a bunch of City College alumni who are now working there, right? Maybe I should reach out to them. Maybe I already know some, right? So it's really important to use technology. It's here for our use, and it's kind of like, it's gonna get wasted, if you don't leverage it. So that would be like my extension on that. Great point.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
agree. That filtering.
absolutely. Fantastic points, guys. I think something that young people should keep in mind is that nobody's really out there being super confident just on their own. A
Mhm.
lot of people are just faking it until they make it. And I consider myself an introvert, and people in Kingsborough and Brooklyn College would be like, "You're not an introvert. You talk so much during class," but it's all about faking it. So I go to these networking events for my job to represent Mala at different events constantly, like almost like every week. And I consider myself a shy person. I was a shy kid growing up, and then you don't just magically stop being shy, but yet you have to fake it. You have to just fake being an extrovert and breaking out of your shell. Uh, it's so easy to just say, don't be afraid to approach people. Because at these networking events, I see people that are hiding in the corner, that are there like the whole 3 hours. They're on their phone in a corner and then they leave. And I'm like, that could be me. But I find somebody usually that's like on their own, and then I swoop in and I'm like, hey, I see you're by yourself. My name's Dan. I'm the community manager from like, how's it going? Like, what do you do? You ask some questions, and people are very open and receptive. Um, they're willing to talk to you even if they don't know you, and you just gotta fake it. You gotta fake being a people person. And a lot of young Muslim kids, it's just the way we're raised. We're very quiet and introverted, and we're afraid to speak out. We're afraid to speak to new people. Stranger danger. But when you network, you have to talk to strangers. You have to pretend like, hey, I'm an extrovert and I can talk to anybody at any time. And that even goes virtually, like LinkedIn. There might be like, oh, this person went to City College, but I'm afraid, like, why would I message them? Like, I don't know them. I've
Yeah.
done it. I've wanted to apply to a job at New York Presbyterian Hospital, and I saw that one of the people that worked there was a U.S. Army veteran. Messaged her, and she helped me get an interview. And like, I had no idea. She had no connections with like the hiring person directly, but she helped me word my resume, word my cover letter, and she went out of her way to talk to the hiring manager and get me an interview. And I had never met her before. It was just a LinkedIn message out of the blue. So you just gotta fake it until you make it, and don't be afraid to leave your comfort zone, because that's what networking is about. None of these people are networking know each other. You're not going to build your network if you're too afraid to speak to strangers. So yeah, that's just combining everything you guys have said, because
Yeah.
you guys said it perfectly.
For sure. And I just kind of want to add to that real quick too. It's kind of like I wouldn't say, you're faking it either, right? There's a level that we all have to be able to engage. We all have friends, we all have family that we're open with, right? It's because we're so comfortable with them. And I think part of growing up in the kind of households that we grew up in, it's kind of like we speak when we're spoken to, right? But
Hmm.
that's one thing that we need to learn. That's the thing that we need to learn how to change, right? We need to
Right.
be diving into these events like, hey, these are all people that can be a friend of mine, right? Go out there, speak to people, and honestly, like they're gonna be grateful that you came up to them. Some of them are just gonna be like, "Oh man, like what do I do?" So just know that you're not alone in there. It's kind of important that you recognize everybody's, you know, in the same shoes, right? Everybody's trying to network.
Yeah.
I think another one is one of the biggest mistakes with networking, I think, is going in and finding that one person and then sticking with that one person for the rest of the event, right?
Hmm.
I used to do that all the time, and then by the end of it, I'd be like, I only met one guy today. He was a great guy, but we kind of just stuck around with each other and just talked to each other the whole time, and that's really valuable in itself. But motivate one another. Say, hey, dude, all right, great chat. Let's both part ways, reconvene, maybe introduce each other to the people we meet. And that way you cover a lot more ground, right? Just having like a partner in crime kind of on your side. So that would be my advice on that.
No, that's great. That's great advice.
Yeah, that is. I'm absolutely guilty of the early on sticking with one person because they become like your little safety net.
Yeah.
They're like your little safety blanket. But yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that. So that's really great advice.
Mhm.
That's fantastic, guys. So Jamin, you work with a DE and I initiatives at
Yes.
your nonprofit.
Mhm.
What are some policies and changes you recommend for organizations to foster more inclusive workplace?
Yeah, I mean, like we already talked about, it's kind of like what best serves our communities, right? And I think it's different per company, different per communities they serve, and the different per the region they're in. And I think it's important at the core, and Hamas touched on this too, is where leadership can lend an ear, right? And making sure that they do make solid strides towards supporting people who ask for specific things. And just steering away from like the virtue signaling and the, oh look, we do this for this month and that for this month. That is great and all, but we want core tangible things to kind of be like, okay, this is the progress that we see. So when it comes to DE and I would say the most important thing is to, look back and say, okay, here are the things that our employees asked for. Here's what's realistically doable for us. And as leaders, how can we kind of incorporate it into our day to day, right? One of the things that I worked on, and this is not like a company wide thing, but I worked on a networking event with LinkedIn, and LinkedIn was the one kind of hosting it. Uh, and I pointed out that, hey, we have these various different, uh, you know, eating and consumption accommodation needs. What can we do about it? Blah, blah, blah. That time around, it was too close to kind of make a drastic change, but they were willing to, get some external vendors and get some halal and kosher food last minute, right? So it's kind of like that effort is what we want to see from companies. Yeah, you can't make giant organizational changes sometimes, but at least you want to take like smaller steps to kind of make an impact.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, definitely.
Hamas, what are some of your thoughts on like diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace?
Yeah, I think there's definitely like as Jamin was saying, like there's like, the list can go on and on about like different sort of changes and like things that employees want to mention, but I think being more utilizing your position of leadership, especially like for it doesn't have to only be for Muslim, but anyone someone from the Jewish community who wants to get kosher food, get their holidays on their calendars. Anyone from a Hindu culture, same, like they want their holidays being on the calendars and their dietary restrictions being, respected. I think it's leaders should definitely utilize their position, like as I mentioned, like I can do the same thing. Like I could network with the director who I made the first call with, regarding my the situation I was in, and I saw he was open to listening to me and having those conversations. So I would say like leading conversations directly with people in power. Obviously doesn't only have to be strictly like like regarding that matter, but it could be more like a personal relationship building, professional building, and yeah, just like approaching them, laying down, just putting something in their mind, like, hey man, I'm just like professionally, like, hey, like I think everything's going great, and just wanted to also mention that, oh, like I heard that a lot of the employees discussing this, the Muslim employees discussing that they wanted to see if Eid can be a holiday for the community, because I know Christmas and is celebrated, and it's on the same level for us Muslim community. Eid is something similar to Christmas, so I think that would be awesome. I think a lot of the employees were saying they would be really appreciative if the firm implements that into a holiday, and I think that would definitely motivate them to stay here, and definitely motivate them to come here, work longer, be proud of where they work at. So I think just like putting those things, taking that initiative, that first step, to put these thoughts in higher management or traditional, even if it's traditional leadership, I think just approaching them, making sure they're aware of these type of things. It doesn't have to be it's not going to be changed. Nothing's going to change overnight. You definitely have to work on it and not give up hope. I know certain people just like, try it once and they're like, oh, okay, I'll just leave it for them to work on it. Develop the program, because I know like develop a chain of people you could reach out to and try to implement these type of policies, like where Eid is respected, or dietary restrictions, or a prayer location, or like a prayer room in the firms. I know a lot of firms are implementing that, and I'm proud to and I'm happy to see a lot of firms are doing that, and my firm is part of that too. So definitely happy on where the direction is going for our generation and the new firms that are coming out. But definitely some work that we need to do on our own as well. There's still a long path to go, long journey ahead of us, but I think just taking small steps would definitely lead to bigger changes in the future.
Absolutely. I think the direction that we're heading in is really great.
Yeah.
Because the baby steps, maybe we'll see some bigger changes in our lifetimes. But it's nice to get away from being the company that just change their profile picture every month. It's like, come on, Coca-Cola. Like, Coca-Cola doesn't care. Like, it
Yeah.
changes its picture for like Black History Month, or recognizing gay pride. It, but what are they really doing? They're not really actually helping anybody by just changing their profile picture. So it's nice to see that some companies are actually being led from within, and the change is coming within, and it's tangible. It's not just some electronic, picture that we can't really do anything with. But let's stick with Hamas. Do you find it challenging balancing your personal social life with your faith and your busy work schedule?
Yeah, I remember when I saw this question, I was literally thinking over this so many, like I was playing the scenario how I should answer this, because it's definitely challenging. It's really challenging in my field of work. I on weekdays, my work schedules, like I wake up at like 6 o'clock, hit the gym, start work at 9, being the new position. So I was recently promoted to a management consultant, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and you have to be clocked in until 10 o'clock. So even if
Wow.
I'm from home, even if I'm from home, I have to make sure I'm monitoring my emails constantly, responding to clients, getting on calls, coordinating work with the people I'm managing. So it's definitely hard to have a balance. I think one thing that's working for me is a to-do list. So obviously not everything on that to-do list can be followed, so I adapt. But I make a list when the week starts. I'm like, okay, so my goal for this week is make sure I hit my five time prayers. That's definitely priority for me. Even if I can't pray the whole, I try to pray the fathers. So I try my level best to stay close to my religion. So I try those 5 days. That's on my to-do list. Other thing is making sure I'm not getting burnt out from work. So taking a walk in between work, taking my lunch breaks, dinner break. And then weekends are the days where I get involved with the community, make sure my family has all the chores lists that they have for me done, run errands, take care of my parents, try to cook. I try to cook too. Personally, I think that's helpful for me. It's more relaxing to cook on the weekends. It just de-stresses a lot of my stress. And taking and then going to the mosque, on as much as I can on the weekends. I think that definitely spiritually brings me up, and also I think I consider that part of my community work, to networking with people in the mosque after late hours, at after the Isha prayer, or after Maghrib. So I try to network with my community fellow, other Muslim Americans, part of the community. So yeah, I think that's again, it's not a fix. I don't have a fixed schedule. It's like I try my best to have a to-do list before the week starts. I know people have monthly, or something, but my goals are weekly, and I try to adapt. If anything changes, I just try to adapt and try my level best to manage as much as I can. But again, everyone has their own unique lifestyle, own unique work niches. So I think for me that works, the to-do list for a week, and trying my best to stick to it, but also adapt to the situation for the day. Yeah.
Absolutely. You have to be adaptive and I think your way of doing it a week at a time
Yeah.
is very helpful because if you try to do too much at once, like
Yeah.
2 weeks or a month, it gets really overwhelming really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
If I look at a month in advance at all my, travel plans and meetings, like it's so hard to comprehend it. And then you get choice fatigue, and eventually you decide to do nothing, and that's
Yeah.
even more detrimental.
Agreed. Agreed.
But the same question for you, Sam. How do you balance your faith, personal life, and your work?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Hamas is a man's man. That one,
Yeah,
those
absolutely.
are those are some amazing duties, and you balance it amazingly,
Oh,
mashallah.
he's
Try my
great.
best.
Yeah, that's what's up. And I would say like, very similarly, I lean on technology a lot to kind of manage my time, right? And like I said earlier, these tools are here for us to use, and if we don't use it, it's gonna go to waste, right? Primarily Google Calendars and Notion. I use these to just kind of manage both my short-term and long-term to-do lists and the events I got to engage with, the things I have to attend, the things I have to do. So all types of things, right? Just making sure that I have something to kind of support me in the way that I'm organized, right? So that's primarily it. Um, but also it's kind of like honoring commitments, right? If whether it's my commitment to my faith or a commitment to my family, my friends, my school, work, whatever it may be, like what I'm gonna say I'm gonna do, like I have to do it, right? And it's really important that your community recognizes your level of commitment and to kind of make sure that whatever you plan on doing, you're able to do it. Don't sign up for something that you can't handle. So, just being uh kind of like just honorable in what you do, and making sure that, your word is your bond, get things done. That's kind of how you got to operate to kind of manage it all.
Yeah, fantastic points. Um, I really like, promoting the fact that we have so many tools at our disposal. Uh, I keep bringing up like when we were kids or growing up. We I didn't have a cell phone until like high school, and even like until then, it was those big bricks that we could like play the snake game on and call people, and that was it. But now Google Calendar, the Notes app, uh, we use at Mala, we use Google Suite, like G Suite, for everything. It's so collaborative, it's intuitive, and um, we, we can collaborate on things really easy. I can send out a Google Doc with ideas, and my boss, or like executive assistant, everybody can see it instantly and put in their own words like immediately. It's really helpful, and you know, if someone is time challenged, if they're challenged by being organized, these electronic tools go a long way. Like being able to get your thoughts out. Like I have ADD, so being able to get my thoughts on, onto my phone, really keeps me organized and grounded. So I think that's a really good point. Like use the tools we have; they exist for a reason. Like it's not just to watch YouTube videos and scroll Instagram. Like these things are tools. They're amazing tools, and they're like people like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs have said that they don't let their kids, when they were kids, use it for content consumption. They were used for educational tools
Mhm.
because they understood the power that our devices have. So, yeah, thank you for that, Jan. My next question, it wasn't on like the list of questions I gave you guys. Uh, Jam, I was reminded of uh, our friend Leon's birthday party we went to a year or two ago, and
Mhm.
you talked about when you have enough money and building wealth that you want to retire with parents and like give them retirement and take care of them. Like like a lot of South Asian, Middle Eastern, Muslim families, like uh, that's a big part of it. Our parents took care of us. Sometimes they really hone in that point, like, hey, we took care of you, you gotta take care of us. But when they do it right, we want to do it ourselves. We want to be like you, where your word stuck with me. This was like 2 years ago, I think.
Mhm.
And, I still think back to that. Like, you want to retire your parents when you built up enough wealth, and that's one of your financial goals. So, Jam, why don't you tell me more about the role your parents play in your faith and even your personal professional development?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. First of all, yeah, I hope everybody here, inshallah, has the capacity to retire their parents. Uh,
Inshallah.
and we will be able to, kind of, put that impact and that ability to make that impact at our forefront to kind of drive us in each of our professional journeys. And I think, both my parents have played a huge role in both my religious and personal and professional development. They set the tone on, I talk a lot about integrity. I talk a lot about, being faithful. And I think I get a lot of those qualities from my interactions with my parents. They definitely instill those values in me, and not just by like talking about it, like they act on it and they're recognized for it, so I definitely try to emulate what they're capable of when it comes to that. And on a professional standpoint, both my parents worked slash currently work in like the pseudo educational space. So my dad used to be a teacher in Bangladesh, and my mom currently is a paraprofessional working with special needs students, right? So both of them have a lot of exposure to guiding, youth, and supporting them and helping them. So not only did that help them kind of support me in my growth, but also it helped instill to me, hey, I have a role that I can play myself as a mentor and as a guider, wherever I can, right? And all that still comes with being humbled enough to recognize that I still have a long way to go, and in order to make them uh proud and also just accommodated for in the future, like I have to do what I got to do. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Perfect. Uh, Hamas, I've had the pleasure of actually, since we grew up in the same apartment building, I've had the pleasure of actually, meeting and knowing your parents, and I think they've raised, an amazing young leader. Like, as Jam said, you're like a man's man, and your parents definitely have a lot to do with that. So, same question for you. Tell me about the role your parents play in your life.
I think my both my mom and dad both have played a significant part of my growth in their own unique ways.
Mhm.
Uh, I think you know this, but just for the context, but our dad sent us to Pakistan when I was after elementary school, so like I was around like 7 or 8,
Yes.
and like we went to Pakistan in 2008 or 2007, and we were there for 6 years.
Mhm.
And came back in 2016. My mom, well, and my 4 other siblings, so 5 of us. My mom raised on her own in Pakistan, so that's why I say they both play their own unique role in my growth. I think my mom really taught me a lot of lessons when she raised her by herself, like how um, you could adapt to different situations, like like she was put in a spot where she had to raise all of us because financially it didn't make sense, and like religiously, culturally, my dad didn't think it was the best move to keep us here, because
Mhm.
he saw a lot of bad stuff circling around. So his best approach was, okay, let's send them to Pakistan, hopefully they could live a better lifestyle. And the currency exchange, obviously, as you guys know, is pretty big difference. So we were living definitely in a good we were living good in Pakistan, and my mom definitely um, did everything, did laundry, took us to school, drop us to school, take us back, bring us back home. I mean, obviously she had help with our relatives and stuff over there, but I still would say I look to her. She's definitely my biggest inspiration to like how you can life can throw a lot of things at you, but you can't really stop. You can't just stop and just leave everything. Like a lot can happen, people can pass away, um like the difficult financial situations can happen, but you just can't like give up. You have to keep moving forward. I think that's something I learned from my mom, and I never, like, when I see a situation, I never give up. I just find my way around it or adapt to it. And that's why I have much of a chiller approach than certain people. I try to be like, okay, that's life, like, oh, that happened, no problem. All right, that's part of it. We're just gonna move forward. We'll find a way to move forward. And for my dad, I would say it's like he definitely was the man of the house, provided everything that my mom needed, that we needed. When we came back, definitely had a more friendly approach to us, to build that relation, connect with us again. And financially, I think he taught me a lot of good lessons. Did I follow all of them? Maybe not, but he definitely taught me a lot about his experiences and his life. Like, financially, like he did like bankruptcy once, and that was like the last situation that he had, and like other like accounting stuff. So I definitely learned a lot of financial stuff from him and business stuff. And yeah, I think they both played unique roles. My mom was like the teaching me core values of like how to survive life, how to adapt, how to like move forward, not give up. And my dad was like, oh, here are the financial skills that you probably, I mean, he's not educated, but like I would say he looks really really well versed in the financial and business sector. So he definitely provided me a lot of knowledge. Even though he's a taxi driver, he has a lot of experience because he worked multiple different jobs in his life. And he had a rough upbringing, so he wasn't really wealthy and stuff. So he definitely taught me a lot of valuable stuff that I still use in my life. So yeah, I think they both raised me pretty well, and culture and religiously wise too. They both made sure I read the Quran, had my religious teachings done earlier in my life, so that way I don't get lost in moving forward for the core values that Islam teaches us. And yeah, I'm just happy I got to grow up with my two parents, and yeah, just grateful. So I think definitely learned a lot.
No, that's awesome.
That is.
Another thing, and what that reminds me of is like, what we don't recognize is how knowledgeable our parents can be. They have like a
Mhm.
1,000 hidden gems up their sleeve sometimes. Sometimes you just speak to them like, I didn't know you knew that. So it's important for us to kind of go out of our way to give them that lane to talk about the things that they know about. Sometimes we're just like, they're on their phone, let me not bother them. Or like, they're doing their thing. I don't even, they know this stuff. So it's interesting what they know about. It's important for us to go out of do our duty and kind of draw that information out of them sometimes.
No, I agree.
Absolutely. I think so. I go to a lot of interfaith events, so Jewish events, and something that I find really interesting from learning what they do, they like pass down their stories from generation to generation, and the way so storytelling is an art form, and they've perfected it. The way they pass down their history from one generation to another is amazing. I was listening to the uh, American Sephardi Federation. I work closely with them, and they're Middle Eastern Jews. It's like Iranian, Afghani Jews, and they're talking about the persecution they faced. And their great grandparents, so like far down the generational line, passed down these vivid stories that are in great detail that their great grandkids were telling on stage. And I'm like, they've done such an amazing job of passing down their heritage and their lineage. That's something that we should take from our parents and our elders. We sit them down and tell them like, we're really interested in you guys, human beings, our parents. We would love to learn more about our heritage, so that when we have kids, we can do the same thing and we can pass it down to them. And the culture, the religion stays alive and it stays valid with younger people when they can hear and understand our stories. Like, and that's what Jewish people do amazingly well. They're fantastic at passing down their knowledge. I think we can really learn from that. And I think that's something we should really focus on implementing and learning from our parents while we still have them. But Hamas, your thing, you went back to adaptability, rolling with the punches, going with the flow. That went back to your point you made about another question about being adaptive. You got to roll with the punches. You got to go with the flow. And it's the survival of the fittest isn't all about having a six pack and running, running those every single day. It's about adapting. It's about adapting to your environment and challenges and finding ways to overcome them. So yeah, that's what made me think when you talked about going with the flow. So wrapping it up with our final question: who are your role models? Tell me about the role models in your life. It could be your parents. It could be Muhammad Ali. It could be Malcolm X. It could be anybody. It could be I don't know, Brad Pitt. So, starting with you, Hamas, who are some of your role models? And help me wrap this up, and I'll go to you, Jam.
I think I have to I would say I have many role models, but um top two would be, first is like Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. I think a lot of the stuff I learned early on in my life, as I mentioned, my dad's in Pakistan, and I learned a lot from about religion and stuff. I think I learned a lot of the stories, like in the school over there. They teach you the teachings and the stories of, like, from the Quran, all the wars, all this, like, Islamic journey that happened. And you there's a lot of stories, and you learn a lot from those stories, like, and you get take from those stories, like how to be compassionate, how to show, how to be a leader, how to embody those teachings of being compassionate, being honest, be integrity, and there's a lot to learn. And I would say I took a lot of those things from Prophet and the Islamic, journey, like the journey he went through. And I think a lot of his style of leadership I really inspired me, and that's something I implement right now. Like when I manage my people under me, I make sure they are, they have everything they need. If they need something, I'm open air, I'm available all the time. I try to keep open and compassionate, and I'm not I don't try to be like strict and stuff. So I try to keep it open, keep a line open, be a friend. This doesn't have to do with, like, some people would be like, oh, like some culture, or like you just don't like the person. No, I would not be like that. Even if I don't like the person, I would still not show it, and I'll still be compassionate. And even if something happens, I try to still keep a calm approach. So I think that's my number one person who I follow, or like try to implement his teachings in my life. And second would be, I would say, my parents. Again, like, they taught me a lot, and they're definitely, though they're not leaders in like the world or community, but I would say they're leaders in my world. So like, they definitely taught me a lot. And I think their skill, the teaching that I take in my daily life, implement in my daily life, is something that I would represent in the world now. Like, oh, this is something my parents taught me. So, hopefully the next person who looks at me and looks like, oh, Hamas is a great leader for me, he'll know that those are teachings, like, I learned from my parents, and from like our prophet. So I think those are the biggest two inspirations in my life.
Wow, yeah, I agree. Like you said it perfectly. Our prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, uh, his leadership style was about balancing being authoritative, but also being compassionate. Like being, strict in your way, but also understanding that people make mistakes, and being humble, and uh, caring about people, and not being afraid to show your compassion, your humility, and your affection towards people. You're very forgiving, and I think that's an excellent role model for just everyday leaders. And yeah, I think parents are also great. Like, they're our leaders. They're always going to be our leaders, and when we have kids, they're gonna be even more leaders. They're gonna help take care of our grandkids, our kids. Yeah, that's perfect. Tell me about your role models, Jam? I'd love to hear them.
I mean, echoing Hamas, like same thing, right? The Prophet, peace be upon him, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. It's kind of like, the fact that he was able to unite the region under one ummah is just like such a beautiful thing. And the way that he did it is like the inspiration behind it, the leadership that it took, the firm hand that it took. That all can play a role today in what each of us want to be able to do it with our professional journeys and the teams we want to lead and the impacts we want to make, right? He was a change bringer, and I think those are the people that inspire me the most. Different I love reading autobiographies, so like different kind of, civil rights leaders, different kind of global, ministers, people who fought for change and really made some really significant things happen in the world by challenging the status quo. That is what inspires me, right? And I think each of us have a visionary inside that wants to see certain kind of change, and I think it's really important to cultivate that energy. Um, so the any type of um opportunity to kind of like draw inspiration from Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is always a beautiful thing. And different types of leaders throughout our modern history as well is definitely something that I like to draw from. And just as the both of you said, the parents are the first leaders we meet, right? It's kind of like the ones who teach us, not through what they say, but also what they do and how they interact with each other and how they interact with the entire family and how they manage the household, right? Um, there's gonna be a lot of things that we're gonna learn, that we learn subconsciously that we're gonna apply when, inshallah, when we're all parents. And we don't even realize that we learned those things, right? So it's important to recognize that our parents are indeed leaders in our lives, and they're they're gonna shape a lot of our behavior. But yeah, that's the role that's the role these role models have played for me.
Wait, I think
Perfect. Yeah.
one last thing before then. I think one other person I look up to is Kobe Bryant. The Mamba mentality.
Mamba mentality for sure.
I mean, that's
Very
me.
well said.
But yeah, now back to you.
I love it. Well, thanks, guys. Our time here is drawing to a close. I want to thank you guys. This has been an amazing conversation. I think we got a lot accomplished. It was very insightful talking to both of you. Uh, this is being recorded. I'll send you each a recording of it so that you could view it, show it to your family. I really appreciate talking to you guys.
Yeah. No, I learned a lot. I learned a lot from Jamin too. Like
Yeah,
he was talking about all this shit. I was like, oh, definitely things I could implement in my lifestyle too to, better improve the Muslim community and also just myself. I think definitely learned a lot.
absolutely.
Both of you guys, Dan, you too.
No,
Yeah,
likewise.
thanks.
This was a brilliant one. I definitely feel the same about like the conversation we just had. And it's so important that, we use these opportunities to have these conversations. As much as we think we know, like there's always room to grow. And, I love, just chatting through some of these things. It's been an awesome conversation. I also want to thank the participants here today as well, for joining. And we'll definitely love for anybody to shoot us a question on LinkedIn if they want to chat some more. And remember, we're all one community and we're out here for each other.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. I'll share your guys' social medias so yeah, we can reach out to each other. Thank you guys again. I hope you guys have a great weekend and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year, guys, in advance.
All right. Bye, guys.
Take care.
Thank you for watching episode 1 of the Mala podcast. I had an amazing time talking to Jamin and Humas. They're great people to talk to. They do a lot of work in their own fields. If you had a great time watching, leave a like, comment, subscribe. If you're feeling generous, please feel free to donate to Mala so we can continue doing our work. We do a lot of interfaith work. We do a lot for our community here in New York City. We're having a lot of projects going on all around the country. We're leading the charge for Muslim American Heritage Month in January. So if you're feeling generous, please make a small donation. Other than that, leave us your thoughts in the comment section below. Share this with your friends.